What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 367 of The O Show, brought to you by Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, our new sponsor over at Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Scottsdale. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness is an exclusive high-intensity fitness experience developed by the champ himself, formulated with the perfect combination of boxing strength and cardio conditioning intervals designed to make you look good, feel good, and leave you with more than just a great sweat. The best group boxing workout in the market, again, brought to you by Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. We got an excellent guest on the show today. He's been working in video production for over 20 years. He's the owner of Point in Time Studios. Mr. Kalla, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited.
Thanks so much for, again, taking the time to come into the studio. I know we've been talking back and forth for a few weeks now to get this done, so I'm very appreciative, man.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure, absolutely. And it's so nice and air-conditioned here, so, get out of the heat a little bit. Oh, my God, I know. You don't even realize it until you bring it up. Yeah, it is nice. So, yeah, thank you.
So you're originally from here, or did you just go to school at ASU and then...
Yeah, I'm one of the few natives. So I was born, raised, and trapped here. I lived for a little bit in Spain. I got to do a study abroad program, but I came back, and I love this state, and it's been fun to, watch it grow, as far as every industry and commercially, but also, the film industry, and seeing that really blossom. So it's been exciting.
You ever think about leaving, or even as a young kid, kind of exploring around? Like, do you think about going out of state for college? And
I did. I looked at maybe going to New York for film school, maybe LA, and ASU didn't have a film program at the time, and I talked to my parents, and it was, I decided ultimately to go to ASU, which was awesome. Go Devils, and studied business over there with an emphasis on entrepreneurship and Spanish, and like I said, lived overseas for a little bit, came back. I got a job at General Mills, which is a great job doing sales and marketing, but just found early on I just really wasn't living my dream, wasn't my passion. It was a great job, but being in a cubicle all day just didn't do it for me. I wasn't able to be creative. So about 3.5 years into that, I left and started Point in Time. Oddly enough, I was doing small jobs, like small corporate videos, and on the side, I was doing construction. It's kind of like the movie Office Space. That was me. I left the corporate America to do construction. Lost weight. It was fun. But the dream was to start my own company. And so it took me about a year to get going, get clients, and, the rest is history. We started doing video. Got into bigger projects, more commercials, and several years into that, doing 3D animation, virtual reality, and now we do national spots and all of that. So it's been fun.
How many hours a day did you work with the marketing gig? Because obviously you could have, during your off time, done your own stuff, built kind of your repertoire, your arsenal, per se, with stuff, independent stuff. Did you ever do that?
Yeah, I'm kind of an all-in sort of person. So. There's a really good book by Napoleon Hill. It's called Think and Grow Rich. And he talks about a story of a captain of a ship, and they're landing on the shore to go fight their enemy. And they're outnumbered 3-1. And he tells all his soldiers to, burn the boats. And they say, well, burn the boats? Yeah, burn them. So they burn the boats. They go, now what? He goes, now we have to win. And I've always used that mantra in my business. It was never half in, half out. And I truly believe if you've got one foot in, one foot out, you're never really fully committed. So I started, incorporating the business while I had that job, but I knew to really do it and do it well, I had to be all in. And really, I had put all my chips on the table. I had my oldest son and my second son had just been born. So I have 2 kids, I'm married, and I go from making a great income to making nothing. So it was very scary, don't get me wrong. My whole family was like, are you bananas? Like, you're gonna do what? You're leaving a corporate job to make videos? And I was like, trust me, like, this is what I'm passionate about. And I truly believe if you're passionate about something, you will find a way to make it work. And I did. It took me a few years. I survived 2 recessions, and 20 years later, we're still here, and we're having one of the best years I've ever had. So
yeah, that's something you do when you're my age, 21, 22. You make that career switch. So, yeah. I mean, it worked out in the end.
It did. I was actually, I got married early, had kids early. So I was 24, 25 when I started Point. Actually, no, I was 24 when I started my job, and then 28 when I started Point in Time-ish. So it was, definitely, it was a little harder when you have kids, but again, I had to find a way to make it work. So, yeah.
So what clicked in your mind as a young kid, whether it be early on, high school, going into college, like what clicked for you when it came to film and wanting to work in that side of the industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my dad brought home one of these old cameras. Some of you might remember it, but it was the one with half a VCR, and you had to, it recorded VHS. And And I just was like amazed by this, camera. And so I read the instructions, I learned how to use it, and I just kind of took it over. And I started writing little short films and, casting my friends and family in it. So I was kind of known in school as the film guy, and everybody wanted to be in my movies. And I just loved it. And I'd always been a big, film buff, but that was like at, 10, 11 years old. And then fast forward, I kept doing that, up and through college. And so I always had a passion, but I didn't really connect the dots and think like, can I make a living doing this? Because I'd seen everybody else go get a real job, and I didn't think that it was possible. And so when I finally was like, you know what, I think I can make this work. And I found there was a real need for, a good product, a good video, and great service. And I was able to combine those. It really, it took off. So.
Do you remember some of those early on struggles? Just kind of learning some things early on, even in school, of how everything worked, because it's one thing to look at it like on a screen and be like, this is awesome, this is what I want to do, whether it be behind the scenes or in front of a camera, and then it's a totally different entity, I feel like, when you actually step into that world and you think like, oh my God, so much editing goes into this, so many different tools, so many different toys you can play with.
Yeah, it's funny in school, and like I said, I studied business, so you learn, we actually did have a business plan, right? And so you create this fake business, and you work within your group, and it got pretty detailed, and there was a couple times I might have cracked it open to kind of get some reference, but it's different when it's not real money, right? It's pretend it's on paper. When it's actually your money and your butt on the line and you have to perform, it's a lot different. And so, yeah, there was a lot of struggles. The Great Recession of '08, I had overextended myself. I had built this big studio, hired a lot of people, and then of course the economy collapsed on itself, and everybody in the industry was hurt. And so that was really hard. I had learned a valuable lesson on don't overextend yourself. Live below your means, and really watch your cash. And that was something that I didn't do really well early on. I just sort of was like, let's just do it. And even to today, I look at an opportunity and I say, okay, is this something that's good for the company? And do I want to take on any sort of, debt here? So it is something that I definitely watch. But the other big thing would be people. I tell people, if you're starting a business, surround yourself with awesome people. If you can't afford to hire an employee, that's fine. But surround yourself with other people that are, in the industry, or other business people that are just as excited about business or whatever your craft is, because that's going to give you energy. I'm doing this 20 years, and I'll tell you, I wake up just as excited now as I did the day I started, which says a lot, because it's 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. And of those businesses that succeed and go to 10 years, 80% of those fail. The first 5 years is because of lack of systems. The 10 years is because they burn out. They just lose that excitement. So I've surrounded myself with core people that keep me jazzed. My employees keep me excited. So that brings energy to me and keeps me motivated. So
how hard is it to find those types of people that are kind of on the same wavelength as you? Because like, you're right. In one point in time, there was probably kids that you grew up with, making your way in the industry that were as passionate as you, and then they burnt out, and then you got to, find and gel with other people. So how difficult is it, surrounding yourself with people who have not the exact same mindset as you, because everybody thinks differently, but has the exact same mentality of like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going full force, full steam ahead?
Yeah, no, so I think there's two parts to that. So I'm in a business group where I surround myself with people that are very excited about business in general, because I realized that I had spent a long time being an artist. I was very obsessed with the art, and I just wanted to create the best content, the best videos that I could. But I called myself a business owner, but I really didn't understand business. And so I made sure to surround myself with friends that knew business in lots of industries, and that were super excited about that. And then as far as my own staff, the issues that I had is I was hiring people that were great on paper, but didn't match the values. And so I had to step back and go, okay, what are our company values? And when I established those values, I got really clear on those. And so I hire, fire, and evaluate constantly by those values. And if somebody doesn't fit those values, it's okay. You might have a better opportunity somewhere else, and that's all right. But they have to match our values. And so I make sure to find, and those people aren't easy to find. I'm very picky who I bring into our company. But I'll tell you, we have a very low attrition rate. People stick with us because once they're in, man, they're just excited. And they're as excited as I am, and they bring that energy, and we bounce ideas off each other, and we're doing just the coolest stuff. So it is really, really exciting to be around those kind of people. But, they're out there. You just have to be really clear on what you're looking for.
As an owner of a company, what is the most difficult situation that you most difficult situation that you had to go through when it came to either someone you worked with or someone that worked for you, something that you could tell? on the air.
Yeah. No, I would definitely say, again, I'm dating myself, but the 0809 recession, like I said, I had built this studio, I had this beautiful site, and I built this whole like offices and kitchen. The idea was to rent it out. Yeah. And, I came to the realization I had actually gone into my retirement. I had leveraged that. I took the money out of my retirement just to try to make payroll. It was tough. I had over, and I'm very transparent, I had over $1.1 million in debt. And I had gone to go out to eat to go to Burger King. And I realized I didn't have enough money to buy a Whopper, right? I had $1 million in debt to the bank, but I couldn't afford food. And I realized, okay, there's a problem, right? I've got to fix this problem. And one of the unfortunate things, I had to lay some people off. So that was probably one of the hardest things I had to do, was just let some really incredible employees who had given a lot to the company, let them go. And I had to decide who to keep. And that's a tough decision because, you're in the midst of a recession where everything's falling apart. And one of the worst in history, some call it a depression, and you're trying to pick, who's going to keep their job and who isn't. But I knew if I didn't make that decision, the whole company was going to fold. So that was probably one of the hardest things, was letting a handful of really great people, let them know they had, I was going to let them go. But I did try to find them other jobs at other studios and give them references, and a few of them were able to find jobs. So yeah,
that was rough. That's definitely something that I would not look forward to as an owner of a business, having those tough conversations, especially with people that you actually enjoyed working with and that you consider friends.
Yeah, I consider them family. I mean, I tell you, we spend more time with each other than we do our own family, and it is, like I said, and especially those, that have families, it's really hard, very hard conversation to have. But it's one of the things, those tough decisions. People say, I want to be a business owner. They don't realize the spectrum, what that encompasses. And it's making those hard decisions. And that really, I believe, what separates, a mediocre business owner with a great one is, having to make those tough calls. And they're not easy.
What was the first big breakthrough moment for Point in Time when it came to like, okay, now you're making steady revenue, like you're, not to say back on your feet, but like now you're comfortable again, you're doing what you want to do, which was the dream all along?
That's a great question. I would say, we've had definitely, people talk about business and sometimes people do this like straight line, right? But truly, and I've worked with some of the great, business minds. I've gotten to, work and speak with Tony Robbins, Gary Vee. I've gotten to go to seminars and meet them personally. And, they show lines like this. It's more like this, right? So you have this dip and you're like, oh, my big break. And then, and then my big break, And so, you definitely had those roller coaster waves. But, I would say that, we've had, even lately, just some really awesome clients we've gotten to work with that, have come to us and say, hey, I need content constantly. And they're looking to us to really be on the cutting edge of what's the latest and greatest. We just did a project, give you an example with, we've been working with ASU Thunderbird for the last few years. And that's just been a great client because they're on the cutting edge already. They understand, virtual reality and video. And so they come to us and say, hey, and when COVID happened, they're like, what can we do to still have a graduation? And, amidst all this. So we had created the whole campus in VR for them, that they were able to take, to other countries and show it. But we created a virtual set, and we brought the dean in the virtual set that we created. We had robots accepting their diplomas. We had holograms of President Crow, so they could basically get their speeches. Yeah. So we found a way to make this really cool virtual graduation commencement ceremony for them, which was a huge success. We've done a couple of them now. But those are great projects. That's a great example of an awesome client that we really enjoy working with.
So talk to me a little bit more about the whole virtual reality side of it. I think we actually have a picture of you somewhere up on these screens. If Zach, you want to pull that up, of you actually in one of the, in the virtual reality, so to speak. But how early on did that kind of come into play? Is that more recent or like, and again, like what's it all about? Because I'm totally confused about it myself.
So about 6-7 years ago, I'm playing with Oculus or one of the Oculus Gear headsets, and I had the phone in there, and I'm watching LeBron play, and I'm courtside, and I'm looking around. And it was a 360 panoramic experience, and I said, "This is the next big thing." I mean, I am there. I am at the game, and because everything that we've always done with video, it's emotional, right? I want to evoke emotion. It's experiential, and I want to put you in that environment. And I said, for the first time, like, I really, truly feel like I'm there. And so I said, this is the next big thing. How do we get into this? So I hired, I brought on some more people. I invested in the technology. And it's funny, a few months later, I'm building a house. And the person I'm building a house with said, imagine this flooring with these countertops and those cabinets. and they just give you like a little piece of tile. And I said, why is this not in VR? Why can't I just walk in and pick things? So I built this whole thing out, and it was a little bit ahead of its time. I flew around the country. I showed it to a lot of new home developers, and they were like, it's really cool, but it's just a little bit, it was kind of, I was selling the Porsche, right? So from there, I went, okay, what market could I really apply this to? And what I found was student housing was really, because I'm dealing with students, we're more accepting of the tech. And so we basically gamify the experience. We put students inside these buildings before they're built. They can play football, cornhole, but they can also tour the building, watch games in the Jumbotron by the pool, and feel like they're there. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my first inroads into really doing a lot of VR. And I'll tell you, we did a project that was out in Spain. The owner had basically bought it out of bankruptcy, was doing a full remodel. This is like 500 luxury villas. And he came to us and said, hey, I need a way to really market this and sell it. So we basically did the whole thing in VR. We flew to London. People could come in and they could actually tour these villas, stand on the roof, and see the Mediterranean Sea below them.
Wow. And
tour the whole place. They sold a ton of properties at this event because people didn't even have to go to Spain. They got it. They saw it in VR, and they were sold. So that's when I knew I was onto something. To answer your other question, I was like, oh, this is actual ROI, because I just loved it. And I was like, there's got to be a market. And then I found it. And then we've done some really cool out-of-the-box stuff that we did a project with one of the largest semiconductor companies. We put you inside the chip, so we shrink you down to Ant-Man size, and it's very much like a Tron experience because you're flying through this chip. We're doing police sensitivity training. We put you in a domestic violence situation where you have to choose your own adventure and make the right decisions. You've got the full ambisonic sound, the heartbeat. So we're applying the storytelling we've always done with video and film and putting it into virtual reality and 360 experiences. So I'm super jazzed about it. It's fun.
What was your first experience like with virtual reality?
I mean, going back to that LeBron thing was just was incredible. And then, it's just really evolved from there. I mean, that was, I think, probably the first one. But people, we use the term VR and 360. So 360 is a full panoramic, right? So I think back to like even my days at Disneyland when I was a kid. I don't think they still have it, but they had the big panoramic screens around you, and you could fly over the countryside, right? And you're standing in this room, and you're looking around, and a few of you know what I'm talking about, and you're truly in the scene. So, and go back further, even, thousands of years ago, they see cave drawings, and they're panoramic. So 360 VR has been around for a very, very long time. Even the militaries use it for, simulations for the Air Force. But it's just now gotten to the point where the technology has become more affordable. The graphics are better, and we found an actual usage for it. Now, I think if you go a step further, you're going to see augmented reality is going to ultimately surpass virtual reality as the technology gets better. Apple's working on their own glasses. You're going to see more holographic displays with the glasses. And then the next evolution is going to be contacts, and then they'll have something implanted in your brainstem. So you'll just be wired in, and you'll have holographic projection. So, I keep in, touch with all the tech and everything kind of happening, and I go to the trade shows, and so it's very futuristic to think what's coming,
So it's basically, when you have this on, it's basically what you see, like that's your life in the moment. Yes. Like you see commercials of people doing it and they're just like, oh my God, it's like, it can't be like that.
Yep.
Is it?
Think Minority Report. So, you'll be able to swipe, so I liken it to basically when I show my kids a payphone. I was in London, and I said, look at this. Like, what is that? I'm like, that's a payphone. It'll be the equivalent of your kids seeing your cell phone. They're gonna be like, Dad, what is that? It's a dinosaur box, right? They don't even use that anymore. So, and the first thing will be the glasses. So you want to call mom, you want to surf the web, you want to watch a movie. You're not going to need a big screen TV anymore. You'll just watch the holographic experience. You need directions. All those things will be done within that display. And then from there, they are actually working on contacts. I think we'll see those. That'll be the next evolution. And then it'll just be an implant. So it's, that's where we're headed.
So you probably have a ton of ideas in your mind when it comes to that stuff. Like, you have a specific dream scenario for anything that you'd want to shoot, given whether it be a client that wants to do it or something that you prefer to do.
Right. Yeah, we are always, like I said, trying to stay on the cutting edge. And for us, it's really about the content. We're not going to try to compete with Oculus or Apple on the hardware. They're just, they've got, millions and millions and billions, and they got developers doing those things. But where we can really, make our mark is in content. So that's where we talked about the police training we're doing. We're looking to roll that out, even further. Also with the real estate experiences, we're seeing virtual and augmented reality being used in the medical field. We're looking at also at expanding education. So again, taking the things that we've done in video and really applying that, in those realms. that's where I see that continuing to evolve. My wife is in healthcare, and she works in cardiology, and so when you're having to work on hearts, it's very dangerous, especially if it's like a child's heart. It's difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're seeing an increase of 90% in success rate, where doctors can actually work on the hearts in VR before they actually do the real surgery. So there's a ton of evidence already of how awesome this technology can be applied.
So in that regard, kind of just tie a bow on this whole part.
Yeah.
When you go all the way back to your time at ASU, whether it was making student films like your very first one, to see what you've done 20 plus years later, like, do you remember the first ever film that you ever shot?
Well, first film I ever shot, I think as a kid, is I made a little Freddy Krueger like film.
Wow.
I had the claw and the mask, and I was just a big fan. And if like to raise a hand back there. And I'm pretty sure that, I had my sister who was like 5 at the time, singing the Freddy Krueger song, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I killed my mom this scene. I don't know. I definitely was blood and ketchup everywhere, but that was a lot of fun. And, just using like little in-camera special effects that I could come up with. But that was a fun shoot. And then, I would be embarrassed to look at any of the stuff that I did in college even, because it just, obviously acting wasn't there, and the props and the wardrobe. But it was just about telling a story. It was about expressing, ourselves and what we were feeling in the moment. And, I was a big fan of Gladiator, so I made this little Gladiator-ish type film. I've been in martial arts for over 20 years, and so I'd cast a lot of my martial arts friends, and we did a short film. They actually did win some awards. It was kind of based off BMW. Had a series of short films they created when you got the car, and they're these really cool little films. So I kind of based one off of that. I shot down here in Camelback, and did a 3D building that exploded. I rented a 7 Series BMW, and it was kind of like a spin-off of kind of like the movie The Saint a little bit. Had a little James Bond feel to it, but it was fun. So it's been a bit since I've done that, but it was fun.
It's both fun and embarrassing to kind of look back at the early ones. I've acted in a few. Hank knows, he was there. Just bad films that I hope nobody sees out there. They're out there, though. They're on YouTube.
Yeah, I've learned to, and it's funny, I guess some other good advice is, looking at, Henry Ford, he said that they'd take him to court, this 100 years ago, and they said, they started drilling him and asking him all these obscure questions. And he finally said to them, look, he goes, I can push a button and I can bring one of my people in here to answer any of the questions that you have. And that might seem arrogant, but at the time, rewind years ago, I thought I had to be the solution guy. I thought I had to be the director and the DP and the audio op and the editor, or at least I had to have a really deep knowledge of all those things. And so I was constantly trying to keep up on everything. What I realized was I have to be the visionary. Really, that's it. So I hire people that are much better than I am than 3D animation and 2D and being a DP and a gaffer and all those roles that go into making a film. So I look at what we're doing now. It's incredible. I mean, we just shot a series of national commercials. We've got, really big national clients. And I laugh, think if I was trying to do all of it, it would never happen. I'm more of an executive producer role now, and I'm fine with it. I don't even direct as much as I used to, again, because I thought I had to do it. And we've got incredible directors now. And I bring the awesome talent together. And we create the work, and it's just been fun to see. And everybody is really specialists in those fields. So,
as you've seen the company grow, like in that regard, you saying you're not doing as much directing as you used to. You're relying on other people, you're trusting other people. When that started to come to fruition more and more, was it easy to trust these people given, their experience and background? Because it's your baby, and then you're kind of giving it to someone else, and they have their own creative assets that they want to bring to the table. Yeah,
it's never easy. I'll tell you that, I kind of like in my baby, it was like, oh, good baby's 10 years old, or, like at 2, like, oh, it can kind of walk, and then 10, it can, it's independent. And then my baby's 20. It's like, it's off in college now, right? So I have to check in on it a little bit, make sure it's okay. Do you need some money? It's kind of the same equivalent. But yeah, I mean, when I started hiring even directors was hard because that was kind of the last piece that was like, I have to be on set. I have to call the shots. I need to oversee the creative. And that only happened probably about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, where we started bringing in other directors, and I was more in a producer role, and I would kind of stay on set and watch and give some feedback. But more and more as I trusted these people, and I saw like they really get it, and it might be where I oversaw maybe the creative or the copy and the creative writing, and then gave it to them. But what I realized was that I was limiting myself because I had told myself this story or this narrative that I had to do everything. Right. And that was the big lie, was I don't. I can, have the life, have the business I've always wanted if I could let go a little bit. And I'll tell you, that is one of the hardest things for every business owner, and especially creatives and artists, because it's our art, right? We own that. Our name is on it. And if it's bad, that's the worst thing anybody could say. It's like calling your baby ugly, right? So that is a huge deal for us to be able to let go. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of businesses, over the years go under. And I always liken it to, I was telling my wife today, I said, when I go to a restaurant and I see the owner is back there and he's cooking, he's the cashier, he's bringing the food to you, he's doing everything. I always say, and I'm like, in 1 to 2 weeks, this business is going to close. And she said, how do you know? I said, because he's doing everything. Because nobody can do that. Nobody can sustain that. It's too hard. But they're like, I can't trust somebody to cook that food. I can't trust somebody to run the register. And even though that person may mess up and there might be some challenges, you have to do that. And how you do that is be creating your values, so you know what kind of person you're looking for. You have a great training program. You support them and help them. And then you can slowly step back out of those roles. And I liken it, taking those hats off. When you start a business, you're marketing, sales, accounting, finance. You're doing everything. Mm-hmm. How can I start to take some of those hats off? And there's some great programs out there, Strategic Coach by Dan Sullivan. And he always says, find what you're best at. What gives you passion? What drives you? What gives you energy versus what takes it away? And those are the hats I want to take off right away. Right. So like accounting, that does not give me energy.
Right.
So.
I mean, it gets to a point where there's going to be things we talked about burning out earlier on in the show. You're going to have to do all these different things. And if you don't take off some of these hats, it's all going to come crashing down eventually, which is something I think you've done obviously very well. And the last thing I wanted to ask you, I don't want to take too much of your time here. I don't want to take too much of your son's time too. He's waiting. But, I think it's very important to talk about, I don't think there is a balance per se, but like if there was a balance, early on while you're growing this business, maybe not so much now, and maybe you have more time. I mean, obviously you're here, your son's here, you brought him in here today, but back, 10, 15 years ago when you're starting this out and you're going through like the rough patches and everything, how did you manage balancing home life with professional life, given, ups and downs of raising a family at the same time of trying to raise a business?
Those are great questions. So I'm an avid reader, and another book I'd recommend is The EMyth. And I've got to work with Michael Gerber. He's a really incredible businessman, and he has a story about a pie maker. And the pie maker who grew up loves making pies. It's her passion. And if you read the book, she starts her own pie business, and now she's making the pies, sweeping the floors, doing like we were talking about, doing everything. And years into it, she's like, I hate this. Like I hate making pies now. It's like the worst thing ever. And so when he teaches in the book is you have to create these processes and systems so you don't burn out, so you don't hate what your passion was. And so I'm constantly looking at that, going, how can I, keep doing this at a high level and still love doing it? And to your question about balance, it's almost like a myth. Balance. It's really counterbalance. There's another good book called The One Thing, and it's by the gentleman that started, Keller Williams.
Yeah.
And he talks about that, you have to pick one thing and to really focus on that one thing that's so important that doing everything else almost doesn't matter, right? And in the book, he talks about counterbalance. So what that means is if I'm going to go put in extra hours in the business, right, I'm neglecting something, right? Probably my family, not spending so much time with my kids.
Right.
So then I go, I'm not seeing my kids. Let's go on a week's vacation. Well, okay, now I just spent more time. I'm neglecting my business a little bit, right? So whatever that counterbalance is for you, there's no such thing as perfect balance. It just doesn't exist. It's a counterbalance. And so you have to understand that, hey, I'm going to put time into this. Well, guess what? Like we just got back from Huntington Beach. I shut it off and I was with my family. My wife and I were in Hawaii 2 months or a month and a half ago. And I told my team, you guys are in charge, right? Don't have a big party, just you're in charge. If it's an emergency, you can get a hold of me. My phone's off, I'm not checking email. Because I knew in that moment, like I need to put into my marriage in order for this marriage to prosper. I can't be checking my phone. And I've done that. In, my previous marriage, I was in Napa Valley. I'm on my phone, making calls. I'm in this beautiful countryside.
Yep.
You can't live like that. So you have to know when to turn it off and when to turn it on. And when you turn it on, be present. Because I'll tell you what, the whole thing about multitasking is a lie as well. You have to be present. So when I do something, I do that one thing and I do it well. I shut it off. So if you and I are talking, you come to my office, I shut my laptop and we're going to chat. When we're done, I'm back into what I'm doing. But this switch tasking it eats up time. So I don't know. Just general tidbits of information knowledge I've gathered.
See, what if you miss an important call though? If you turn off your stuff, what if it's like the call of a lifetime, whether it be on like the family side or the business side, and you missed it.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. And I'll tell you why. Because, for instance, I'm out on the beach with my son, and he comes, this just happened a couple days ago, and he's 15, a couple years, I'm at the age now where it's almost like, oh, I don't want to hang out with you more, Dad. And he's like, let's go play Frisbee. My phone's in the room. So it could be, Steven Spielberg calling me. I'm sorry, I'm playing Frisbee with my son right now in this moment. So when we're done and I'm back in work mode, like, okay, I'm available. But I've learned to make sure to give that person the time and attention. Like right now, we're interviewing for positions, and my phone's ringing. I don't know who's calling. If it's important to leave a message. Because how would you feel in that moment if we're working together and I'm not present?
Yeah.
And you come to me with something important, but I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at my Slack messages, I'm looking at my Facebook messages. We are in a world now, in a society, we're constantly getting pinged and dinged by all over the place. And we wonder why we're so schizophrenic, right? Because no one's present. So when I go for a walk, I've learned now, I leave my phone in my office. I go for a walk. Because guess what? I'm noticing the birds and the trees, all the things I didn't notice before because I wasn't present. So again, to make people feel special, especially on your team and your family, you've got to shut it off, man. It doesn't matter who's calling. And if it's important, they'll leave a message.
Well, that's good. That's a good mentality to have, I think.
Yeah. It's taken me a while to get there, but that's I've learned that through some difficult times. But yeah, hopefully that helps.
Oh, 100%. I think,
Awesome.
Are you ready to get out of here? Got your son in studio just watching. But again,
Awesome.
I'm gracious. I'm thankful that you were gracious enough to come in
My
to
pleasure.
studio today. I'm glad we got to finally get this done. Hopefully
Yeah.
we can do it again sometime.
I'd love that.
And I wish you the best of luck and
Thank
everything
you.
you got going on, man.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Wyatt, for coming out and hanging out with us. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, this was episode 367 of the O Show. Again, we are presented by Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. Thanks again to Mr. Kalla for coming on the show. This was episode 367 of the O Show.